Yo, what up, YouTube? I got a question, and the question was, do I believe in homeschooling for black students as an alternative to dealing with public ed? And to make things simple, I'm going to say no, and I don't, and understand where I'm coming from. I don't agree with homeschool, period. Now, there are some homeschools where you're actually still being homeschooled by a teacher or some person who's qualified, but most of the time, when we're talking about homeschool, it's where you have a child who checks in every now and then and gets work from an actual school, and they just turn it in. And the assumption is that the parent is helping, but typically, really, it's like being at home while you're sick, and you're just doing a whole bunch of makeup work. So that's typically what's going on with people who do homeschool. It's not like they have, the teacher who comes by every now and then and teaches them a lesson, or even that their mom has some specialized training. It's literally, I check in every 2 weeks or so, and I get a packet, and I come home and I do my packet, and I turn it back in. So to me, it's not even, really doing homeschool. But let me get into why I disagree with it. And keep in mind, before I started teaching, I spent a couple of years dealing with children who were homeschooled, right? Trying to catch them up because they fell off so badly. So I'm kind of familiar with kids who are homeschooled. Now, the first reason to why I'm against it is that when you go to school, you learn how to work with different people, and you learn how to tolerate different people from different backgrounds, okay? I'm not talking about becoming friends and holding hands. I'm just saying knowing how to put up with people. Because as we know, when you get to the adult world, your employer isn't going to care if you don't like Sandy or you don't like Jimmy, right? You have a group project that needs to be done, get it done. Oftentimes, you have to build your tolerance for people. You just don't get it. You have to build it. And when you go through the whole K through 12 system, apart from doing the book work and all the other stuff, you slowly grow a tolerance for knowing how to deal with different people. Okay? And you're going to need that to do well in the real world. Whether it's just getting by day to day, going to a store, dealing with customer service, or even doing a group project at work, you're going to have to know how to deal with people who don't look like you, think like you, smell like you, eat what you eat, and I can keep going. But if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to do well as an adult. Now, I understand like some of the homeschool parents feel like they want to keep their child away from bad exposure. I understand. But it's not the way to do it. Because the same things that you're trying to keep them from, they are still going to get exposed to when they are adults. So it's better to have them be around that stuff and monitor what they're doing, actually parent your children, and tell them how to deal with some of those negative influences, as opposed to completely removing them from them. Because they're going to be around your child when they're an adult. And there is no mommy and daddy, there is no principal, there is no counselor, there is no security guard or teacher to kind of monitor what's going on, right? And give you a progress report, or, who your friends are and all this other stuff. There is no one there. So at least you're doing it in a situation where you can control what your child is doing, okay, as opposed to removing them from the equation, and you're not helping your child. Okay, your child will need to make mistakes. They will need to, be in the wrong crowds from time to time. Not to the point where something traumatic or bad happens, don't get me wrong, but you have to be exposed to negatives. It's kind of like how we build up our immune system, right? We're exposed to negative things and our bodies get over it, right? We understand how to defeat it and we move on. It's building our tolerance. So your child going to school, right, it's like building your immune system, but your social immune system, so to speak. So that's the first reason why I'm against it. The second reason is I'm against it because as a teacher, you are trained to do two things. Well, first of all, to be a teacher, you have to do two things. You have to have a mastery understanding of whatever you're trying to teach. Okay, so if you're teaching science, you have to have a mastery level comprehension of your subject, and you also have to know a plethora of teaching skills and strategies that you have to be trained on. That's why, apart from going to a 4-year, we also have to go to another process of getting a credential, which can be anywhere from a year to 2. It took me almost 2 years to get mine. But I went a different route. But pretty much when you teach, it's not about teaching children what's in a book, okay? It's about taking information and presenting it to a child in different ways, because children learn differently. How I teach your child science may be different from how I teach him math and language arts. So I have to have a whole set of skills at my disposal that just don't come to you naturally. You have to learn them. And oftentimes you have parents who are doing homeschool who don't really teach their child. It's just their child reading a book and answering questions. And even when they do, they only know one way. Okay, and as a teacher, I may try to teach your child how to, multiply fractions. And they may not get it the first time I explain it. So I have to go back to the drawing board and come at them with something new. They still might not get it. So I may have to go back to the drawing board and come back with a third alternative. And this is what teaching is about. Right? So when we teach, we have to do things so many different ways because people learn differently. You can't get mad at a child because they don't understand something in a book the first time. Okay? You have to keep going over and over the same information but using different styles. That's kind of what teaching is all about. Knowing the best way to teach a certain lesson or subject. And your child misses out on it. And part of that is also having a mastery of what you're doing. All right, in order to teach math or science, especially at the middle school and the high school level, where your daughter or son goes to different classes, right? Each of their teachers, even their PE teachers, have to have a mastery level of what they're teaching. Why? Because the book isn't enough. Okay, the book by itself only presents information one way. But you as a teacher have to take that same information and give it to your kids in a different format. So literally you have to translate what's in the book to real life, but be accurate. It's hard, right? How do you simplify something but not leave out important features, right? That's where you have to master what you're doing. Because you can read a book, I guarantee you I can give you a geometry book, and they'll tell you how to, handle some sort of proof, right? Where you have to prove some theorem or postulate, and the book will tell you how to do it, and you probably won't know what the hell is going on. But I can tell you how to do it, and it'll make a whole lot more sense, right? And I will give you the same information that the book tells you, that some PhD cat wrote, but I can give it to you the same way in everyday terms. Why? Because I mastered that information. Okay, so in order for me to teach it to your child using all the different methods that I know, I also have to have a mastery understanding of whatever I'm trying to do. Now, you can get away with teaching a child yourself, first, second, third grade, but when they start getting into the 4th and 5th grade, that's when stuff starts being more complex. A lot of elementary school teachers are complaining simply because what they're teaching is almost too much. If you have a 4th or a 5th grader, look at their homework and look at their textbooks. It's really a lot. Okay? I guarantee you there are some topics that your child has to do that you just can't read through the book and understand what's going on, right? You need an extra level of understanding in order to help that child understand what's going on. So oftentimes when children are homeschooled, their parents really can't help them. Okay, it's cute to talk about homeschool when a child is in elementary school, but it's detrimental when they start getting into middle school and high school because they're no longer being taught. Okay, and like I said before, there's more official types of homeschool where you actually have a traveling teacher that may come by, but typically from what I've been around, that doesn't happen. Okay, it's the kids trying to teach themselves, trying to read these outdated, complex books. And these kids fall behind. They fall behind. And you remember, too, just because you're in homeschool doesn't mean you get to slack off, right? So if you're in school 7 hours a day, right, shouldn't you be, working at home 7 hours a day as well? That doesn't happen. The kids slacking off. Mommy and daddy aren't teaching because, quite frankly, they don't know what to do. So it's a bad situation. It's a lose-lose situation. And I can keep going. But for me, those 2 reasons alone are just enough to say, no, you need to put your child in public ed. because even if you try to do homeschool the right way, it'd probably be too expensive to begin with. So, hopefully that answers your question, and anybody else's, who's kind of more so on, should my child be doing homeschool? And my answer to you is no. So you guys take it easy. God bless.